Every winter, the same story returns. A strange green creature lives alone on a mountain overlooking the cheerful town of Whoville. Down below, the residents decorate their homes, hang lights, cook large meals, and sing songs late into the night. The entire town seems wrapped in celebration. Watching from above is a bitter observer. The Grinch cannot stand the noise, the laughter, or the endless holiday cheer. Annoyed by the happiness of others, he forms a plan to stop Christmas entirely. One night he disguises himself as Santa Claus, loads a sleigh, and sneaks into the sleeping town. House by house he steals everything. Presents disappear from beneath trees. Decorations vanish from walls. Even the food prepared for the Christmas feast is taken away. By morning, nothing remains. Yet when the sun rises, the town does something unexpected. The Whos gather together and begin singing anyway. Their joy survives even without the gifts. Hearing their voices echo through the valley, something inside the Grinch changes. For generations, this moment has been remembered as a simple lesson about kindness and the spirit of Christmas. But the creature on that mountain did not appear from nowhere. To understand the Grinch, you first have to understand the man who imagined him. The author known as Dr. Seuss was born Theodor Seuss Geisel in 1904 in Springfield, Massachusetts. His family came from German immigrants who had built lives and businesses in the United States. For many years, that background was simply part of everyday American life. Then the First World War changed the mood of the country. German culture suddenly became suspicious. Schools stopped teaching the language. German names drew uncomfortable attention. Communities that had once felt secure found themselves treated differently almost overnight. For the Geisel family, the pressure became even more personal. His father worked in the brewing industry, a respected local business that supported the family for years. When Prohibition arrived in 1920, breweries across the country collapsed and the family business disappeared. Young Geisel grew up watching how quickly public opinion could isolate people who once belonged. Those memories stayed with him. Decades later, he would imagine a strange creature standing above a happy town, watching celebrations from a distance, unable to join the joy below. By the winter of 1957, Theodor Geisel had already spent years writing successful children's books. His strange creatures and playful rhymes had transformed the way stories for young readers were written. Yet during one Christmas season, he found himself feeling strangely irritated. The holiday seemed to grow louder each year. Stores filled their windows with decorations weeks in advance. Advertisements pushed gift buying on radio and television. The season that once focused on family gatherings now seemed dominated by shopping lists. One morning in December, Geisel later described a moment that sparked the entire story. While brushing his teeth, he glanced into the bathroom mirror. The face staring back at him looked tired, annoyed, and deeply unimpressed with the holiday excitement surrounding him. In that instant, he realized something amusing and slightly uncomfortable. He looked exactly like the Grinch. The idea began as a joke about his own mood, a character who disliked the noise and chaos of Christmas celebrations. But as the story grew, the creature started to resemble something far more familiar, someone who watched happiness from the outside. The Grinch may feel like a modern invention, but the idea of someone who hates Christmas is much older. For centuries, certain groups believed the winter holiday encouraged behavior that was excessive and uncontrolled. In medieval Europe and later in early America, Christmas celebrations often included loud feasts, drinking, music, and public gatherings that lasted for days. To strict religious reformers, this looked less like devotion and more like disorder. During the 17th century, Puritan leaders in England and in the American colonies began attacking the holiday itself. They argued that Christmas had become corrupted by pleasure and waste. In 1659, authorities in Puritan New England passed a law banning Christmas celebrations entirely. Anyone caught observing the holiday could be fined. Their reasoning was simple. The celebrations were too loud, too indulgent, and too disruptive. When you look at the Grinch watching Whoville from his mountain, covering his ears while the town sings and celebrates, his reaction suddenly feels familiar. But the Grinch differs from those historical critics in one important way. They lived inside the society they judged. He lives far above it. The Grinch does not live among the people of Whoville. He lives high above them on a cold mountain, watching the town from a lonely cave. From that height, he can see every light that appears in the windows each December. He hears the music drifting up through the snowy valley. He sees families gathering together while laughter fills the streets, but he remains outside it all. This detail might seem small, yet it carries an important meaning. In many older stories, creatures who live above or beyond a community often represent outsiders. They watch human society from a distance but never truly belong to it. Hermits, monsters, and exiles often appear in mountains or forests where they can observe the world without joining it. The Grinch fits this pattern perfectly. Every year he witnesses the same joyful ritual below him, and every year the celebration reminds him of something he does not have. The more happiness he sees, the more irritated he becomes, which raises an uncomfortable question. Does the Grinch hate Christmas itself, or does he hate being excluded from it? At first glance, the Grinch appears to hate everything about Christmas. He complains about the decorations, the singing irritates him, the feast prepared by the Whos makes him furious. In the original story, he even lists the sounds that drive him crazy: the drums, the music, the joyful noise echoing through the valley. Yet the more closely you look, the stranger his anger becomes. None of these things actually harm him. The celebrations take place far below his mountain. The people of Whoville never climb up to bother him. Their joy exists entirely within their own town. Still, the Grinch reacts as if the celebration is an insult directed at him. This suggests something deeper than simple annoyance. Psychologists who study storytelling often notice that villains driven by irritation are rarely motivated by hatred alone. More often, the anger hides another emotion: isolation. Watching others celebrate something you cannot join can slowly turn joy into resentment. The laughter of others begins to feel like a reminder of your own distance from them. For the Grinch, the problem may never have been Christmas. The problem may have been belonging. Eventually, the irritation becomes something stronger. Instead of ignoring the celebration below him, the Grinch decides to run an experiment. If Christmas truly depends on gifts, decorations, and feasts, then removing those things should destroy the holiday entirely. So on Christmas Eve, he disguises himself as Santa Claus. He loads a sleigh with empty sacks and quietly descends the mountain into Whoville while the town sleeps. House by house, he moves through the streets, slipping down chimneys and stealing everything connected to the holiday. Presents disappear from beneath trees. Stockings vanish from fireplaces. Decorations are stripped from walls and windows. Even the food prepared for the Christmas feast is taken away. By the time the night ends, the entire town has been emptied of every visible symbol of celebration. From the Grinch's perspective, this should settle the matter. Without gifts, music, and feasts, Christmas should simply collapse. He returns to the mountain and waits for morning, expecting to hear nothing but disappointment rising from the town below. Instead, he hears something he never expected. As the sun rises over Whoville, the Grinch prepares to enjoy what he believes will be the sound of misery. He waits on the edge of the mountain, expecting cries of disappointment when the townspeople discover their empty homes. After all, every sign of Christmas has vanished. No presents remain beneath the trees. No decorations hang from the walls. Even the feast has disappeared. From the Grinch's point of view, the holiday should now be impossible. But the reaction below is not what he predicted. Instead of shouting or mourning their losses, the Whos gather together in the centre of town. Slowly their voices rise into the cold morning air. They join hands and begin singing. The sound drifts up the mountain. Christmas has arrived anyway. The Grinch listens in confusion. The celebration continues without gifts, without food, without any of the things he believed made the holiday real. In that moment, a realization begins forming in his mind. Perhaps Christmas was never about the things he stole, and that realization triggers the most famous transformation in the entire story. As the singing from Whoville rises through the cold morning air, the Grinch stands frozen on the mountain. For the first time, he begins to question his assumptions. He believed the holiday depended on presents, decorations, and feasts. He believed removing those things would silence the celebration entirely. Yet the voices below continue. The Whos are still gathered together, still singing, still celebrating, despite losing everything he stole during the night. In that moment, the Grinch feels something unfamiliar. The story famously describes his heart growing 3 sizes. In the language of children's literature, this moment appears magical, a sudden transformation from cruelty to kindness. But the change is really a moment of realization. The Grinch finally understands that the happiness he resented was never created by objects. It came from connection between the people in the town. For someone who has spent years watching from a distance, that discovery carries enormous weight. The Grinch suddenly sees something he had ignored before. The joy in Whoville does not come from things. It comes from belonging. And for the first time, he begins to wonder if he might belong there too. After its publication, the story quickly moved beyond the pages of the book. The character of the Grinch proved strangely memorable. His twisted smile, his irritated personality, and his dramatic change of heart turned him into one of the most recognizable figures in holiday storytelling. A major turning point came with the television adaptation, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The animated special brought the story to millions of households and cemented the Grinch as a permanent part of Christmas tradition. Narration, music, and vivid animation gave new life to the character and helped spread the story across generations. Decades later, the story appeared again in a very different form. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This film expanded the character's background and attempted to explain why the Grinch became so bitter in the first place. Across these adaptations, one pattern appears again and again. Each version tries to soften the darker elements of the character, but beneath the humor and colorful scenes, the original idea remains the same. Underneath the humor and bright illustrations, the Grinch reflects a deeply human emotion: loneliness. Throughout the story, he spends his time watching others from a distance. The town below is filled with connection, shared traditions, and community. Families gather together while neighbors celebrate side by side. The Grinch experiences none of it. Instead, he observes everything from the outside. The more he watches, the more the celebration begins to feel like a reminder that he does not belong. In many ways, his anger begins to look less like cruelty and more like a defense. When someone feels excluded for long enough, bitterness can become a way of protecting themselves from the pain of wanting to belong. The Grinch's attempt to destroy Christmas can be seen as an extreme reaction to that feeling. If he cannot be part of the joy, then perhaps the joy itself should disappear. Yet the story ultimately reveals something important. The celebration in Whoville continues without the things he stole, and that discovery opens the door to something the Grinch had never allowed himself to imagine: the possibility that he might not have to remain alone. When people remember the Grinch today, they usually think about the cheerful ending. A grumpy creature learns the true meaning of Christmas. His heart grows larger. He returns the gifts and joins the celebration he once tried to destroy. But beneath that warm ending lies a quieter idea that explains why the story has endured for generations. The Grinch is not frightening because he is a monster. He is unsettling because he feels familiar.